One in a series of oral histories sponsored by the Smoky Valley Historical Association. My name is Elston Flohr. I am a member of the faculty of the English department at Bethany College, a member of the board of the Historical Association, and director of its oral history project. In these days of sophisticated dial telephones, we look back with nostalgia at the old party line telephone. Today, October 6, 1985, we are very pleased to interview Edwin and Goldie Danielson of Smolensk, Kansas. The Danielsons operated the Salinsburg Telephone Company for a number of years. They will be interviewed by Mrs. Barbara Shannon, who is the wife of Gerald Shannon, a professor of history at Bethany College. Barbara?
Thank you. Edwin and Goldie, we're glad to be together today. We're going to have a pleasant time visiting. Edwin, why don't you begin by telling me a little bit about your mother's ancestors?
Yeah, they come to the vicinity of Fallen, Kansas about 1869. And Nils Gustav Krieg was born March the 22nd, 1831 at Kalmarland, Sweden. And he passed away in November the 22nd, 1901. And his wife, Lena Sophia Krieg, also born in Kalmarland, Sweden, was born in September the 27th in 1836. And she passed away in January the 5th, 1903.
What were some of the stories you heard about their experiences when they first came to the Smoky Valley?
Oh, the first thing, a neighbor, my grandfather Krieg and a neighbor Nywick, they dug a dugout on the 80 my grandfather homesteaded. And then they lived in that for quite a number of years, and my grandfather, he went west and worked on the Union Pacific Railroad with several of our neighbors. And then they built a one-room stone house to live in after the dugout. And then they had quite a struggle farming. Prairie fires would come, grasshoppers and one thing another.
Did they work for the railroad, these men, to get money?
To get some money. And the town of Fallen and Smolen was not in existence in those days, so first they had to walk to the town of Brookville across the prairies, which was about an 8-9 mile trip when they bought their groceries.
So they walked to the grocery store?
They walked to the grocery store first.
What about your mother, parent or ancestors on your mother's side?
Well, that was my mother's side. Now my dad's side, they come to the New Gotland vicinity. And that was in about the same period, I guess. And my father's name was Axel Gottfried Danielson. He was born in Sweden, also in Kalmarland. He was born October the 7th, 1767, and he died, my grandfather, in my dad died in 1928. And my mother was born out on the homestead. Emma Carolina Krieg Danielson was born February the 13th, 1873, and she passed away March the 5th, 1954. And she went to school in that school district 60. And and then went to Salina and done housework, and then they went to Kansas City and got work in those days. They had to find something to do, the young people in those days.
How did your grandparents meet?
Oh, they were met in Sweden. I had an uncle that was born in Sweden when he come over. He was just a young boy, and they come to Illinois first before they come out to the Holland vicinity, west of Salisbury, 5 miles.
It's interesting to hear the stories of the living conditions in those days.
And they had to build their buildings, and they had to they first had oxen, and they went to the Salisbury church one Sunday when she was a little girl, and it was a distance of 5 miles there and 5 miles back. And when they come home to the place, they had a well down in sort of a small creek, and the oxen were thirsty, and they took wagon and family and the whole bit down to the well.
They wanted their water.
They wanted their water, yeah.
Well, that's a good story. Well, Goldie, what about your ancestors? When did your grandparents come to this area?
Put it on the table.
My folks were both born in Sweden. My mother was born in Stockholm. Emma Josephine Anderson, her name was Rick. And she was born in Stockholm in 1870. And she died in 1959. And Dad was Reverend Frank Gustafsson. He was born in Småland, Sweden. He died January the 8th, 1948. He was born in 1866. And they met over here. My dad was a minister, and he built the first church in Småland. And it wasn't a Lutheran church, it was sort of a mission church. Later, it turned out to be a covenant church. And the next year, following the next year, is Cyclone took it. And then his friends got busy and helped him build the church. But shortly after that, he decided to go back to Sweden. Mom and him. Though he met my mother then. And she was a missionary over here. She went to the Ellen Moody Bible School in Minneapolis. And after that, she came to Kansas as a missionary. And there's where she met Dad. And they were married in Scandia, Kansas. Then they decided to go back to Sweden. And we were 6 children there. 2 died in infancy over there. And then we were 4 of us. And after a while, they decided they believed to go back to Kansas. His brothers were here. He had some sisters here. And they came back to Kansas.
How long did you live in Sweden?
We lived in Sweden. I was a little over 3 when I came over.
So you don't remember anything of that?
I heard so much about it that I do believe I know it.
Was life hard in Sweden?
That's why they left.
It was harder than here.
That's why, oh yes, it was getting harder.
They thought about their education for the children.
Yeah.
To come over here was better than it was in Sweden.
And I thank my mother and father many times for that they had sense enough to bring us back over here.
Come back.
Because we met our husbands, and we've been happy here. And I never had a desire to go back.
Well, when they came back to this country, they came back to Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
Did your father stay in the ministry, or did he do some other?
No, then it was a few years, and he just sort of helped farmers there, and we lived on a farm north of Småland, and eventually we moved to Småland, and Dad wasn't very well at the time either. And,
You lived on a farm.
well, it's just a big acreage, you'd say.
You didn't raise your own food.
We raised our garden and stuff like that. But, and then my brother was born in Kansas, on that place. And this is the way it was. It was hard hard then too.
We hear a lot about the Salemsburg Farmers Telephone Company.
Yes.
And I understand that the story of how it began is very interesting. And later we'll get to how you two got to meet each other in the story. Edwin, do you want to begin by telling us about the beginning of the Salemsburg Farmers Telephone Company?
Well, there was a man from Iowa that moved down here. He had relatives here around Salemsburg by the name of C.O. Kemp. And in Iowa, they'd started a farmer's telephone company, so he had some experience, and he was really the one that started it. And then they got together and they thought it was nice to have a telephone company, telephone service. So they started in 1904, kind of talking about it, and then in 1905 they kept on organizing. So they started each person that wanted a share or a telephone, they had to put out $30 a piece to get the company started, to buy poles and supplies. And then they started in making they done their own work. And I know one man said when they surveyed the lines or mark out how far the poles was going to be set apart along the roads, they tied corn cobs on the hedge fences to mark where each pole was going to be.
Very scientific.
Very scientific. And another man that was one of the starters, in order to get the distance between each pole, he'd tie a rag around the buggy wheel, and so many revolutions of the buggy wheel, or there was a pole to be set down.
Well, that was good thinking. If it was about $30 per person investment, how many people
Well, I
subscribed?
don't know. There must have been probably 200, I guess, or more. I've got it here in the book.
And this was in the Salemsburg area?
Yes, Salemsburg area.
Now, Salemsburg had been a town for how many years before this?
Oh, in 1869, I guess it's about
All right, it's about when the town began.
Yeah.
And so they had a good many years without any telephone service.
Oh, yes, yes.
Well, tell me how the reception was when they got this line going and people got their telephones in their homes. Was it good, satisfactory service that they received?
They wasn't used to modern telephone. They could probably be 20 on the line and they didn't complain. And even one lady out there, she wondered if they could talk Swede on the telephone, if that would work.
If it would work.
Yeah.
Wondered if there was a difference. Can you tell us some stories, Goldie, about the Swedish that was talked on the telephone?
Well, I just like I was there 10 years previous to when we got married, and then we were on the farm there for a while. They'd talk to you in Swede, the old ones, and they'd say, I want, jag vill ha 13 på 22. And if you didn't know, if you wasn't Swede, you would know what she was saying. This is the way it was. And they can, they were mostly Swedes.
So the
This is like it is
telephone
now.
operator needed to know her Swedish language and her numbers.
And they did like to listen, and we operators, we have to confess we did too. And we would, a girlfriend and I, we'd talk. But we learned to talk Pig Latin because we knew these were, they were listening. Well, of course they were listening. And so it was fun, and others did it too, just for fun. That we could talk without them understanding. It wasn't anything, we didn't say anything much until.
But one time they had a conversation, and hung up, you know.
Takes a while for that.
And then, but my wife, she hadn't disconnected quite then, and one old gentleman on the line, he said, that was a school teacher, and they hadn't even rang the telephone to get each other. They'd come on.
It takes so long to get the receiver up there, you know. And he was talking the whole time. But this is nothing.
But that was what they expected in those days. They got their news that way. Nobody.
Now, this telephone company was started, what did we say, 3 years after you were born?
Yes, yes.
Where in this story do we hear about the two of you meeting?
Oh, that was great. Our telephone company, in order, I have a clipping of it here. They'd have a big picnic, and it was a big picnic. Every year for a while. And this way they raised money for equipment and for the telephone. And my husband, he played in the Salisbury Star Band. He played snare drum. Of course, I didn't know him at the time. And my brother-in-law played the drum. And this is a big event. Oh, it drew people from all, just like the Hildings Fest.
It was a big social event.
Yeah.
But about the only one around. And then they'd even include politicians would come out and talk.
And
It was a big affair. And, of course, I fell for him.
You fell for the drummer.
Yes, he was awful bashful. But I got him. After 7 years, it was worth waiting for.
Now, Edwin, were you working for the telephone company at that time?
oh, no,
No.
I was home on the farm.
You were home on the farm.
Oh, yes.
And then when they took our farm away from them, they made Camp Phillips out of it. But then we didn't have a place to go. And, of course, we didn't think of going any further than Smolin. We couldn't possibly think of going into another state or anything else. We could have, you know, but we didn't. We had to have a job there to live there, regardless of what we lived in. And in about 2 weeks' time, this manager decided to quit. Then they knew I had been an operator. So they come and asked us if we would take the job. And that was wonderful.
That was an answer to your problem.
But that, I always said, it was a haven in time of storm because we didn't know where we were going. And we had to have a sale, and Edwin had to go out and help this other man finish a project he hadn't finished and learn how to do a little bit. And all this took place in just a short time. And there were 75 sales at that time. 75 homes were taken, farms and homes. And
For the Army base.
to make that camp. And it was an exciting time.
And about the first picnic they had, they called the governor in Topeka and told about their picnic out at Salisbury.
Oh.
And you didn't see many automobiles then either.
Uh-huh.
No.
What other communities around had telephone?
Well, we serviced Ballin, Smolin, and Salemsburg, and we had free exchange to Assyria, which we still have. And we gave service to Brookville and Bavaria. But when the war started and the camp, it cut us.
This was World War
It
I.
cut off.
Mhm.
So we lost them, and we lost a lot of phones.
Was there phone service in Lindsborg and Salina in
Yes.
those days? They had their.
We had a tow line to Lindsborg.
Uh-huh.
And we would, that years ago, so I knew the operators, and after closing hours, we'd sit and converse. We girls would, you know.
And I just read in the history of it, of the company, at one time, people that wanted to call Brookville people would call Lindsborg. They would get in contact with the Salisbury operator, and then she'd connect up to Lindsborg, and that's the way they started in the first place.
That was before my time.
What about stockholders in this new
Yeah.
company?
Yes. Oh, in the new company?
In the phone company.
Oh, when we started?
When you started.
Well, everyone had the stock in the very beginning. But then later on, they rented some phones, which was It cost a little more to have a rent phone. But everyone, in order to get it started, every stockholder had to pay out $30 in 1904 and 5. That was a big sum of money to get it
Well,
started.
then what was the monthly charge for the service?
That was
of the phone?
75 cents.
$10 cents a month first. And then when we quit in 1942, it was $5.25 a quarter they paid for their phone service a month.
A month.
No, a quarter.
A quarter for
Yes.
3 months.
Yeah, 3
When I
months.
did my book work, I'd make out statements for quarter, 3 months.
So you did all the bookkeeping?
Not all of it. I did all the
Well,
statements.
all the toll calls and things.
Don't we have a picture of you as an operator here? I believe we...
Yes, you got one
There it is.
right here.
Here's a picture of Goldie, and we can see the equipment that she was using when she was operating, and this equipment was in your home.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
It was in our home.
Did you have certain hours that the phones were available to people, or was
You
it
should
all...
be closed at 10 o'clock. It used to be 9 o'clock. But you can't anymore. It was a 24-hour service. That's
No.
why we just had to quit. That's fine.
Emergency calls, that was 24 hours a day. Doctor
Well.
calls and something
Yes,
like that.
certainly.
We had to be always in the house.
Hear that this phone service was was stopped?
It was 7 years ago, Bob.
Yeah, it was in...
I know they cut the cable December the 17th.
1976. This is
76, that's
76.
right, that's right.
Here we have newspapers of the old equipment, and this is an operator, not
This is
you
an
in this
operator, that is
picture.
me, that's
And
my
then
idea.
on the other side is the new equipment that was taking its place in 1976. How did you feel when all of a sudden all this responsibility was taken away?
Well, I'll tell you. I just couldn't tell you. I just remember when we had quite a few Beta Company that afternoon. It was close to Christmas, and we had kind of a coffee party there, and some people come in. It was quite exciting, and just on the minute, I was on at the board then when they cut the cable, and then they called in, several of them called in and said goodbye to me. It was kind of hard, you know. And then they cut it, and you knew you were all gone.
You were off. Uh-huh.
It was.
But what about the days and the months after that? Did
Oh, it was great to go to bed and sleep all night.
Uh-huh.
It was great, but it took a while. Well, I don't miss the work because I couldn't keep it up any longer. But I miss the people that would come. We had company every night. We had company, lots of company, and people knew we were always home.
Uh-huh.
And
They could drop in on you because you were there.
And we had a lot of company, and have the phone ringing from early morning to late night. Hear people talking all the time, an operator or me, and then all of a sudden, you don't get a call a day. So when the phone rang, oh my, it's exciting. It is yet to this day.
Mm-hmm.
Who can that be?
Because the phone was such a constant thing in your lives for so long.
Right in your house.
Every day, 365 days of the year, somebody had to be
37
there.
years, you can imagine. And all of a sudden, everybody just gone. Mm-hmm. And when you got a call, you just, it's exciting.
Can you think of any other amusing incidents that happened with people when they were
There were a
calling?
lot of them. There's a lot of sad things and a lot of things I'm glad I don't have to put up with anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But still, we got along fine. And I don't know. It was great.
Yeah, and
It's a good
one time we had a cyclone
Oh, yes.
go through, come from Marquette and through, and we had give a line call that the cyclone was on the way there.
Oh,
So we
you were the
warned some
warning
people.
signal.
We got the picture of it. It was coming. And Edwin came, he said, we're going to get in the car. This time we leave. I said, no, I'm not going to leave. We're going to stay here. You could see it coming, and it took a few buildings, houses, and but it just sideswiped us, sort of. But we didn't leave, and we just stayed there.
You weren't hurt,
See what come.
but there was a lot of damage.
Oh,
yeah.
yes. It was, it tore down our lines, and the houses.
And it was a beautiful, calm evening, and people were just about supper time. And they were just saying, well, no wind at all. And they said, well, it was very hard for me to get busy and tell them to hurry up. And people were talking, I just disconnected them, and I said, you've got to get going because there's a cyclone coming. And
Did they believe you?
yes, they did. And some people, if they'd have been in their house, they'd have been killed.
I was going to ask that. How long did you...
I gave it as fast as I could, two lines at a time, and there's a few on the lines, I had to go fast because I could see it coming.
And so your calls made a difference to some
that's
people.
what they say, and we have write-ups, and they said that saved their lives.
And then during the thunderstorms, when we were at we had to sit up at the switchboard all night long because the electricity from the lightning would energize the wire lines, so the drops on the switchboard would drop. We couldn't have our night alarm on, so we had to sit there and watch it in case somebody had trouble or something would happen out on the
When
line.
I saw a cloud in the west, I said, oh, Ed, but not again.
So that happened fairly frequently?
Well, whenever we had
just
a
like now,
thunderstorm.
thunderstorms, you have to get up and just sit there. And Edwin had worked all day, and he was tired, and I wouldn't trust him because he's apt to go to sleep. So I would sit there. I wouldn't trust him.
So you'd both be up sometime.
No, I want him to sleep. But this is an all-night session if it kept on all night. And you could see on the switchboard where the storm was coming by the way the lines were. I knew where everybody lived, You could just kind of follow the storm up. And then we always had to give fire alarms. And when a lady called in and said, we've got a fire, it was up to us to get busy, take the responsibility and get busy. And this was really a responsibility. But we knew, both Edwin and I knew where everybody lived. It's a little different now, see. I don't know the people. It would be very hard now. I don't know the people where they live, a lot of them. And then another thing.
How did they handle a fire emergency? Was there a volunteer?
It's 12 long rings. And then we'd say there's a fire, and we'd get the help first, and then we'd call the neighbors that they need help. And it'd go fast.
Was it mostly neighbors helping neighbors?
And this is what people missed.
Until they got the fire department in Fallen started, volunteer fire department, and the same in Smolin volunteer
It
fire
wasn't that way all the
department.
time. No. And then another thing that I missed to this day was very important was line calls, and everyone else misses them yet.
Well, tell me what a line call is.
A line call is saying that I'd give this line call, usually at noon or in the morning or the evening. And I'd say that the Ladies' Aid of the Salemsburg Church will meet this afternoon at 2:30. And I would have to say the hostesses, and then the thank you. And that was it. And then, of course, if a storm came up, well, I would have to, has been postponed. And all these things was important to people.
Well, that sounds like a benefit that we have lost, having announcements made over our phones.
Yeah, they lost it, too.
We gave so many, but it was getting a little overboard. It was getting where the politicians started calling. And there was a little, probably the politician was in front of the Republicans' place of business, and he's going to meet with people there. And I give a line call that you meet like Mr. Dole there. And this didn't work so good. That didn't work very good with the opposite. And then then there was one man. He lives in Lindsborg now. He was a teacher out there, and he thought line calls were just nothing. So he wanted me to give a line call that they got that their third daughter was born, and I said they had 3 of them, and they got the 4th. I thought that was quite usual, but he wanted me to give a line call, let everyone know that this wonderful child was born. And I refused. I said, I've never done this.
You couldn't start something like that.
I can't. It was getting too many line calls. I said, I'm sorry.
Well, we
You're going to have to do this.
charged the sum of 50 cents to give the line, all the lines in the company, so that everybody knew what's going on.
You mean when the church was wanting to announce their meeting?
Yes.
Was the hostess charged the 50 cents?
No, the church.
The church
Ladies'
was.
Aid.
The Ladies' Aid was charged 50 cents for their publicity.
And that was every meeting, you know. And if the choir was postponed, okay, it has been postponed. People depended on that completely, and they were lost after it, and I was too. Mm-hmm. And then if you lost some cattle, anyone seeing 5 steers, please call Central. And I'd have to tell them, well, or Holstein or whatever it was. It was getting out of line altogether. It was just too many lines. You can't get them in.
Yes. Wasn't time for private conversations with so many line calls.
It was just getting a little bit too...
Can you tell us a little bit, can you recite some of the Swedish things that were said over the phone and then translate a little bit of it for us?
I don't know. I'm not that good at Swede anymore. That's the worst part.
Try a little bit.
Oh, what would you say?
What do you remember that was comical, perhaps?
Comical?
Well, there was 2 men. They had 2 neighbors. They had talked together, and there was a lady, she'd always be on the line and listen to them, and they knew it. So then they were in town, they were cooked up the scheme that they was going to call each other and talk about the telephone picnic, but they was going to say the wrong date. So they got together after they got home, and they said, well, the telephone picnic should be, is it on the 15th or 16th? It is. And the lady, she butted in, it's on the 16th. Oh, you are there, you old crow, they said.
She just couldn't help herself, huh? That's good.
Oh, it's a lot of fun and we get in a lot of stuff, you know. You knew who was happy and who wasn't. I'll tell you then, you know, it was very unusual. Somebody was unhappy.
It was certainly almost the center of the community, the telephone exchange, wasn't it?
That's why they stayed in so long. They weren't. It's just some of these new people that moved in that did the complaining. And you take in a small town, a lot of people that move into small towns they're hard up, some of them.
How many people were on one line, generally? How many?
In the beginning there were probably 15. I think I can find probably there were 20 at some time.
At the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, people died off and the farms were sold, you know, and towards the last we had about, I don't know, we had as high as 8 on some line, but we had to cut down to 4. Mm-hmm. And that was the trouble. In this day and age, they want the lines, when you want to use a line, they want it right now. Yes. They don't want to wait till somebody...
Goldie, I think we have this call roll here that you brought. Do you want to?
You
Call
want to bring
card.
it up?
Let's bring that up and see if we can talk about that a minute. You have framed this.
Yes, it is.
It's called a call card, and it gives directions for the use of the phone, as well as all the names of the people alphabetically and their numbers.
Yes, yes.
For instance, it says, please observe these rules. Do not give names and expect the operator to hunt up the number. Remember, there is no one more anxious for good, quick switching service than the operator, so use the number they want. All conversations are limited to 5 minutes, except in very pressing business. That would be a change for today, wouldn't it? What else is down here?
Well, there.
All ordinary conversations must cease for business messages.
Yes.
That's different.
That's different from today, isn't it?
Our name is,
Very
my
different.
folks aren't even, that's the first one.
Shall we hold this up?
Yes.
Can you see?
And here was my A.G. Danielson.
Uh-huh.
9, and all through the years we had 2 short and a long, and that was 2 short and a long. All the years we lived till we moved off, till the cantonment comes in from the
So
very
you
beginning.
had the same ring.
Same ring. Yeah.
Well, this is certainly an interesting story about a way of life that many of us don't even remember.
Oh, it
No,
was
that's
something
right.
when we got a phone. When my folks got the phone, a neighbor thought it was a good idea to have a phone. So he seen that we got a phone. And my dad and mother, they thought it would be a good idea. I imagine they called one of my relatives on the old brother or something. He said, well, we're going to... And he got up to the phone and got his guitar, and they sang a duet. I just sometimes wonder about that. I wonder what people thought. But
And you knew it
they
was
were
being
so
heard in many
excited
homes.
about it. That was really something.
Well, the very thought of having sound carried
Yes.
across those lines
Just
was
think.
revolutionary.
The people in those old timers, they really foresight. That was something they really could use, something they needed. And that $30 first, that was quite a big sum of money in this day, in that day and age. Yeah.
What do you remember of the Salemsburg Church?
I just remember that when I took my job as operator, the church was being built.
And what year?
And that was
When was that?
The new church,
the last one.
1928.
And they call that a beautiful old church. Well, you see how it is.
1928. And that was, what number is the church's number?
That was the last one, the fourth
The
one.
4th church.
The third one was
Big
struck by lightning. It struck in the cross on top of the steeple and it burned to the ground.
And that was a terrible blow to the community.
And so the one that's there today
Yes.
was built in 1928. And it was the 4th
27,
church.
28, yes.
And I could see it. I saw it go up from
Who was the pastor then?
Erickson, Pastor Gus
Yeah.
Erickson. And we had lived there now. Pastor Erickson was there for many years, and then Thoreen and Bjorkman and Bard and Johnson, Olson, and Examus. And we're still sitting here.
Still in the church. Who started the Salemsburg Church?
Well, it was that Brodeen, the pioneer Brodeen, they started it. He was one of the first ones.
About Do you know about
1869 or so.
All right, about the time the town of
Yeah,
Williamsburg
they started
began.
then, yes. And,
When they had a town, they wanted a church.
for sure, that was the main thing.
That was important.
Uh-huh.
And then they had to have a place to meet, you know, and get together. And
I've seen a picture of a very large congregation at Williamsburg.
yes.
At what period was the largest?
Oh,
do
I
you
don't
imagine?
know. It was in the 20s. Yeah, in the middle 20s, I guess.
Can you guess at about how many members they had
I
in those
wouldn't
days?
have no idea.
Lots of them.
I don't know. I couldn't. At one time when they first started, the territory, there was from Assyria, Smolin, way up to Salina, to Marquette. There was no churches.
Oh,
See, they had all that big.